What if the most important rituals of ancient Egypt happened in silence, without crowds, without music, without witnesses? This story follows one ordinary day in ancient Egypt, from the pale moment before sunrise to the quiet return of night. Across temples, homes, riverbanks, and fields, unseen rituals unfold, small gestures meant for gods, ancestors, and the balance of the universe itself. These are not grand festivals carved into stone, but soft traditions repeated every day, believed to keep the world from slipping into chaos. The story reveals how a single day was woven from prayer, routine, fear, hope, and reverence, all performed quietly, as if the gods were always listening. Before the sun lifts itself from the eastern edge of the world, the land of Egypt already breathes. Darkness still covers the Nile, heavy and unmoving, but it is no longer the deep black of night. A thin gray light rests on the water, and the air carries the coolness that only exists for a short time before heat claims the day. This moment is sacred, though few would name it so. It is the hour when chaos is believed to be weakest, when the sun god has not yet begun his daily struggle across the sky. In a modest house near the river, a man rises quietly from his mat. His movements are slow and deliberate, not from sleepiness, but from habit. Every gesture at this hour matters. The body is washed with water drawn the evening before, poured carefully over hands, face, and feet. The water is cold, and it carries with it the belief that impurity, both seen and unseen, flows away with the drops that fall to the packed earth floor. No words are spoken. Silence is part of the ritual. He faces east, where the horizon waits. Though the sun has not yet appeared, its presence is already assumed. A small bowl of bread and a few grains of incense are placed near a simple household shrine. The offering is not meant to impress. It exists because it must exist. To forget it would be to invite imbalance, to suggest that the gods could be neglected even for a moment. Across Egypt, thousands perform similar acts at the same time. Farmers, scribes, artisans, priests, and servants all move through nearly identical motions. These are not coordinated by command, yet they happen together, like a slow heartbeat shared by the entire land. In the great temples, priests awaken even earlier. Their preparations are stricter, more demanding. Skin is shaved, garments are cleaned repeatedly, and every tool is touched in a precise order. The inner sanctuaries remain closed, dark, and sealed, waiting for the first rays of sunlight that will later strike their doors. Until then, the gods are believed to be resting, vulnerable, needing protection through exact ritual. Along the riverbank, fishermen pause before pushing their boats into the water. Nets are checked twice. Knots are tightened again, even when they already hold firm. This is not only practical caution. The Nile is alive, and it remembers carelessness. As the sky lightens, birds begin to move among the reeds. Their calls are brief, restrained, as if even they respect the fragile balance of this hour. The world is preparing itself for the return of order, for the daily victory of light over the unseen forces that lurk beyond the horizon. The sun has not yet risen. But everything is already in motion. When the sun finally appears, it does so without sound. A thin edge of gold breaks free from the horizon, cutting through the remaining gray of dawn. This moment is watched indirectly, felt more than seen. Eyes lower, heads tilt, bodies still themselves. The sun is not merely rising, it is being reborn, completing a cycle that must succeed every single day for the world to remain whole. Light spills across the Nile first, stretching into a trembling path on the water. The river accepts it calmly, as it accepts everything. Along its banks, shadows retreat slowly, not fleeing, but yielding. This transition is not dramatic. It is steady, reliable, and deeply reassuring. Inside homes, morning rituals continue. Bread dough prepared the night before is shaped and baked, hands dusted with flour that clings to skin and creases like pale ash. The act is repetitive, almost meditative. Each loaf carries a meaning beyond hunger. Bread is stability. Bread is continuity. To bake it each morning is to declare faith that the day will proceed as it should. Small household altars receive fresh attention. Flowers are replaced if they have wilted. Oil lamps are adjusted so the flame burns cleanly. No one expects a visible response. The ritual itself is the response. In this belief, devotion is not measured by miracles but by consistency. In temples, the first rays of sunlight finally reach the sealed doors of the inner chambers. This is the precise moment the priests have been waiting for. The gods are believed to awaken with the sun, their power renewed but also briefly unguarded. Protective rites are performed with absolute precision. Incense curls upward in slow, deliberate patterns, its scent heavy and grounding, meant to anchor divine presence firmly within the stone walls. The statues remain hidden. They are not revealed yet. To expose a god too early would be dangerous, like opening one's eyes too soon after deep sleep. Instead, hymns are recited silently in the mind, memorized rhythms passed down through generations. Sound is unnecessary. Thought itself is considered an offering. Outside the sacred spaces, work begins. Fields stir with movement as farmers step into damp soil still cool from night. Tools touch earth carefully, almost respectfully. The ground is not owned, it is borrowed. Every furrow is made with awareness that the land remembers how it is treated. A careless hand could anger not just the soil, but the spirits believed to dwell within it. Children are washed and dressed, their faces still heavy with sleep. Protective amulets are adjusted around small necks, shaped like eyes, animals, or simple knots. These are not decorations. They are shields, quietly tasked with absorbing harm that might otherwise reach soft skin and fragile bones. As the sun climbs higher, the air warms. The smells of river water, baked bread, incense, and earth blend into something uniquely Egyptian, familiar, grounding, and unchanged for centuries. This sameness is not dullness. It is security. The day has fully begun. Yet beneath every ordinary action, an invisible layer of ritual persists. Each movement supports the sun's journey. Each repetition reinforces order. No celebration marks this shared effort, no announcement declares its success. The world simply continues. And that, above all else, is the goal. As the sun rises higher, silence gives way to the soft rhythm of labor. The coolness of morning fades, replaced by warmth that settles gently on skin and stone. This is the safest part of the day, the time when order feels secure and the gods are believed to be fully awake. Work performed now carries less risk, yet it still demands care. Every task, no matter how ordinary, is thought to echo beyond the visible world. In the fields, bodies move in steady patterns. Tools cut, lift, and press into the earth with motions learned long before memory begins. Sweat forms slowly, not yet heavy, and falls into the soil as a quiet offering. To work the land is to participate in a cycle older than kings. The harvest may be months away, but its success begins here, in the patient repetition of effort. Along the river, boats drift outward. Oars dip into water with practiced restraint, avoiding unnecessary splashing. The Nile is generous but unpredictable. Before nets are cast, hands brush the surface briefly, acknowledging the current. Fish are taken without celebration. Their capture is accepted as balance rather than victory. Within towns and villages, artisans begin their craft. Clay is shaped, reeds are woven, pigments are ground against stone. These acts carry symbolic weight. Creation itself is sacred. To shape something from raw material is to imitate the gods in a small, permitted way. Mistakes are corrected quietly. Broken pieces are set aside without anger. Disorder must not be invited through frustration. Scribes prepare their tools with near reverence. Ink is mixed carefully, water added drop by drop until the texture feels right beneath the brush. Writing is not merely recording, it is fixing reality in place. A careless mark could confuse meaning, and confusion is closely related to chaos. Every line must be intentional. Even animals are treated with a certain measured calm. Oxen are guided gently. Donkeys are loaded evenly. Harshness is avoided not out of kindness alone, but out of belief. An animal wronged might carry that imbalance forward, unseen, into the day's unfolding events. In temples, the gods are finally revealed. Doors open, light reaches statues polished smooth by countless hands. Offerings of food, drink, and cloth are presented, though it is understood the gods consume only their essence. What remains will later return to human use, transformed by proximity to the divine. These offerings are arranged in exact order. Nothing is rushed. The smell of bread and beer fills the sacred space, blending with incense and stone dust. The priests move with restrained grace, careful not to turn their backs fully on the statues. Respect is maintained even in posture. Outside, the sun reaches a point where shadows shorten, pulling inward toward feet and walls. Time feels compressed. There is much to be done before heat becomes oppressive. Voices remain low. Laughter is rare but not forbidden. Excess draws attention, and attention invites disruption. Across Egypt, the morning hours pass in this shared, unspoken agreement: work steadily, act precisely, and do not disturb the balance that holds the sky above the land. The day moves forward, intact. And in its quiet persistence, it fulfills its purpose. By midday, the sun no longer climbs. It seems to pause, suspended high above the land, pressing its weight down onto stone, water, and skin. Shadows shrink until they cling tightly beneath bodies and walls, offering little relief. This is the hour when movement slows, not by command, but by instinct. Even the air feels thick, resistant, as if urging restraint. Work does not stop entirely, but it changes. Effort becomes measured, economical. No energy is wasted. In this heat, excess is dangerous. The sun is at the height of its power, and power, even divine, demands respect. In fields and workshops, people seek brief shelter. Walls, trees, and boats provide narrow bands of shade. Water is consumed carefully, sipped rather than drained. The body must last until evening. Survival itself becomes a quiet discipline. This pause is not empty. It is filled with small, nearly invisible rituals. Amulets are touched, adjusted, or briefly held in the palm. These gestures are subtle enough to escape notice, yet deliberate enough to matter. Protection is believed to weaken when the sun stands still, when time itself seems to hesitate. A moment of care restores confidence in the unseen barriers that keep harm away. In homes, food prepared earlier is eaten slowly. There is no rush, no abundance. Meals are simple, practical, and intentional. Eating is not indulgence, it is maintenance. Crumbs are brushed aside with respect, never wasted. Even leftovers carry value. Inside temples, the atmosphere shifts. The gods are thought to be most intense at this hour, their presence heavy and demanding. Certain areas are avoided. Others are entered only after brief purification. Silence deepens. Movement is restricted. The stone walls hold heat and scent, creating a closeness that presses inward. Priests perform rites meant not to invoke, but to stabilize. These actions are protective rather than celebratory. They reinforce boundaries, ensuring that divine power remains contained, focused, and beneficial. Too much presence could be as dangerous as too little. Along the Nile, the water appears almost motionless. Light scatters across its surface in blinding fragments. Fish retreat to deeper, cooler places. Boats drift slowly or remain tied to shore. The river rests, and the people allow it. Animals respond as well. Livestock stand still, heads lowered. Birds retreat into reeds and trees, their earlier calls replaced by quiet observation. Life folds inward, conserving itself. This shared stillness binds the land together. From the smallest house to the grandest temple, the same understanding governs behavior: endure, respect, and wait. The sun's pause is temporary. It always is. But during this suspended moment, every small act of restraint becomes a ritual in itself, an offering of patience to a force that cannot be opposed, only acknowledged. And so the day holds its breath. Almost imperceptibly, the sun begins to move again. Its shift is subtle, noticed first not in the sky, but in the body. The heat loosens its grip just enough to allow breath to deepen. Shadows stretch slightly, lengthening at the edges. This is the signal many have been waiting for, not an end to the heat, but a promise that it will not last forever. Work resumes with renewed caution. Tools are lifted again, hands return to familiar motions. The pace remains slow, but intention sharpens. What was paused must now be completed before light begins to fade. In the fields, irrigation channels are checked and adjusted. Water is guided with care, redirected where soil has begun to dry. This act carries ritual weight. To control water is to negotiate with life itself. Each adjustment is made thoughtfully, acknowledging that abundance and scarcity walk closely together. Artisans return to their benches. Clay is moistened, fibers re-wetted, pigments stirred back into usefulness. The afternoon light changes the appearance of everything it touches, softening edges and deepening colors. Objects seem more complete, closer to their final form, as if the day itself encourages resolution. In temples, certain offerings are removed. What the gods have accepted in essence is now redistributed. Sacred food is consumed later by priests and workers, not as a feast, but as sustenance marked by quiet gratitude. Nothing sacred is wasted. Transformation, not disappearance, defines divine exchange. Households begin small preparations for evening. Floors are swept, not only for cleanliness, but to symbolically remove the heaviness of midday. Water jars are refilled. Lamps are checked and repaired. These tasks are practical, yet they also anticipate the return of vulnerability that comes with darkness. Along the Nile, boats move again. The water reflects the sun in warmer tones now, gold instead of white. Nets are drawn in, inspected, repaired if torn. Each knot is tightened with patience. A secure knot is a form of trust extended into the future. Children, freed from rest, move through open spaces cautiously. Their play is restrained, shaped by instruction and imitation. Even joy is moderated. Balance must be maintained. Above all, the afternoon carries a sense of transition. The most dangerous intensity has passed, but night still lies ahead. This is the time for correcting mistakes, finishing obligations, and restoring order where it has loosened. The land responds in kind. Breezes stir lightly. Birds re-emerge. The river's surface ripples again. The day is no longer holding its breath. It is preparing to exhale. As the sun begins its descent, the world changes character. Light no longer presses downward, it spreads outward, warmer and more forgiving. Stone walls release stored heat, and the air becomes breathable again. This is the most forgiving hour of the day, when effort feels lighter and the future less uncertain. Across Egypt, attention turns inward toward the home. People return from fields, workshops, and riverbanks carrying the quiet weight of the day's labor. Feet are washed at thresholds, rinsing away dust, sweat, and the unseen residue of effort. This act is practical, yet symbolic. The outside world is left behind, and with it the risks carried through shared spaces. Inside homes, evening tasks begin. Food is prepared once more, simpler than the mornings but no less intentional. Ingredients are measured by familiarity rather than scale. The act of cooking follows rhythms learned through repetition, movements guided by memory instead of instruction. Small household shrines are refreshed again. Lamps are lit, their flames steady and contained. The light they produce is modest, never meant to rival the sun. It exists to remind, not to replace. Offerings are adjusted, sometimes reduced from morning abundance, acknowledging that excess at night attracts attention best avoided. Along walls and doorways, protective symbols are checked. Knots remain tight. Amulets remain in place. The boundary between safety and uncertainty narrows as daylight fades, and these quiet reassurances matter more now than at any other time. In temples, the atmosphere shifts once again. Certain rites conclude. Others prepare to close. The gods are not dismissed, but gently guided back toward rest. The inner sanctuaries are gradually sealed, shadows reclaiming the stone interiors. The divine presence is contained, not diminished. Outside, the sky deepens in color. Blues darken. Gold turns to amber, then to muted red. Birds settle into roosts. The river reflects the changing sky in slow-moving patterns, as if memorizing the day before it vanishes. People pause more often now, standing briefly without purpose, watching light fade from familiar landmarks. This watching is itself a ritual. To acknowledge the sun's departure is to accept the approaching trial of night. No fear is displayed openly. Fear invites weakness. Instead, calm preparation takes its place. Lamps are positioned. Doors are secured. Water is stored within reach. The day's final warmth lingers on skin, a reassurance that does not last long. The sun lowers further. And the rituals of protection quietly take precedence over those of creation. The sun does not vanish suddenly. It sinks slowly, deliberately, as if aware of the tension its absence creates. Its final light stretches across the land in long, slanting lines, catching on reeds, stone, and water one last time. This moment is watched with full attention. The transition matters. As the disk touches the horizon, a subtle shift passes through Egypt. The world feels thinner, less anchored. The sun god begins his nightly journey beyond sight, and with him goes the certainty of order. What remains must be protected carefully. People turn inward almost at once. Movement becomes purposeful. Tasks not yet completed are either finished quickly or abandoned entirely. Night does not reward stubbornness. At riverbanks, boats are secured firmly. Ropes are checked twice. The Nile belongs to different forces after dark, and even those who trust it by day do not test it now. The water darkens, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. In homes, lamps are fully lit. Flames flicker softly, pushing back darkness in small, fragile circles. These lights are not decorative. They are guardians. Shadows are watched closely, especially where walls meet floors and ceilings. Darkness is believed to gather there first. Food is eaten without delay. This is the last shared act before sleep divides households into separate bodies once more. Eating together reinforces unity, a shield against what prowls unseen beyond doorways. Temples close their final doors. Seals are placed. Spoken words remain minimal. The gods are now traveling through danger, and excessive sound could distract them or draw unwanted attention. Protection must be quiet. As the sun disappears entirely, the sky deepens into indigo. The first stars emerge, tentative at first, then confident. They are not decorations. They are guides, believed to assist the sun god in navigating the night waters. Across the land, brief gestures are made, a hand raised, a symbol traced, a breath held and released. These actions are so small they leave no trace, yet they are repeated everywhere, every evening, by people who may never meet but share the same fear. Night is not evil, but it is uncertain. And uncertainty demands respect. The day has ended. The test has begun. Night settles fully over Egypt, slow and complete. Darkness does not rush in, it gathers, filling spaces left unguarded by fading light. Lamps glow within homes like small, steady hearts, each one a fragile assertion that order still exists. Outside these circles, the world belongs to uncertainty. Movement becomes limited. Doors remain closed. Windows are narrow and watched. Sound is controlled. Loud voices are avoided, not from courtesy, but from belief. Noise draws attention, and attention invites what should remain unseen. Inside homes, sleeping spaces are prepared carefully. Mats are straightened. Personal objects are placed nearby, not for comfort alone, but for familiarity. The known protects against the unknown. Children are settled first, their breathing monitored until it deepens into safety. Amulets are touched once more before rest, a final check before vulnerability takes hold. Some remain awake by choice. These watchers do not patrol or guard in any formal sense. They sit quietly, observing lamps, listening to the rhythms of night. Cracks in walls, door seams, and shadows cast by flame are studied with practiced calm. The goal is not to confront, but to notice. Awareness itself is considered a form of protection. In temples, priests conduct restrained nighttime rites. These are not public, not even widely known. The gods are believed to be in peril during their nocturnal journey, and assistance must be offered without disruption. Words are avoided where possible. Gesture and posture carry the weight of meaning. Incense burns low and slow, its scent anchoring divine presence within sacred boundaries. The air grows thick with smoke and heat, creating a sealed world within stone walls. Outside distractions are excluded entirely. Above, the stars dominate the sky. Their patterns are familiar, mapped through generations of observation. They move predictably, reassuring in their order. To watch them is to confirm that the universe still obeys its rules. Along the river, darkness deepens into something heavy and impenetrable. The Nile flows unseen, heard only in subtle shifts and distant movements. It continues its work regardless of observation, reminding those nearby that life persists beyond vision. The hours stretch. Sleep comes cautiously. It is not a surrender, but a negotiation. Bodies rest, but belief remains alert. Dreams are expected, some welcomed, others feared. What appears in sleep may carry meaning, warning, or deception. Throughout Egypt, countless minds drift between waking and rest, trusting that the rituals of the day, the bread baked, the floors swept, the offerings placed, have built a barrier strong enough to last until dawn. The night advances. And the watching continues. The night reaches its center. This is the hour when lamps burn lowest and sleep lies heaviest, when even the most diligent watchers feel their attention soften. Darkness at this time is not merely the absence of light, it is a presence with weight and intention. This is when danger is believed to move most freely. Dreams deepen. Across Egypt, minds wander beyond the body. Sleep is understood as a temporary loosening of boundaries, a state where the soul may drift closer to realms normally sealed away. For this reason, sleeping positions matter. Objects are placed near the head or chest, grounding the dreamer in the familiar. To wake suddenly without recognition is feared. In homes, the air is still. Lamps flicker faintly, their flames struggling but persistent. Shadows stretch and distort across walls, forming shapes that invite interpretation. No one reacts. Fear feeds disorder, and disorder feeds what waits beyond. In temples, the deepest rituals unfold. These are not festivals of sound or movement. They are moments of alignment, timed precisely with the passage of stars and the imagined position of the sun god beneath the world. The gods are believed to gather in secret at this hour, reinforcing the structure of existence itself. Priests remain motionless for long stretches, bodies aching, breath controlled. Movement is reduced to the essential. The goal is not to act, but to be present, to witness the invisible labor of the divine. Offerings are not added now. Instead, earlier gifts are reaffirmed through posture and focus. The sacred space becomes a point of stability in a universe temporarily unbalanced. Beyond walls and cities, the desert expands its influence. Cool air flows outward from open sand, carrying silence with it. The desert is not hostile at this hour, it is watchful. It waits. Animals sense the shift. Predators move quietly. Prey remains still. The balance between them is fragile but precise, maintained by instinct and restraint. As the stars reach their highest positions, belief reaches its own peak. This is the moment when protection is tested, when rituals performed earlier either hold or fail. No adjustments can be made now. One must trust what has already been done. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the night begins to change. Darkness does not retreat yet, but it loosens. The weight lifts slightly. Those still awake feel it first, a subtle easing, a sense that the unseen journey is nearing completion. The most dangerous passage is almost over. The world remains intact. The night begins to thin. No color announces this change, no sound confirms it. The darkness simply loses its depth, becoming less complete, less certain. This is the hour before dawn, when the outcome of the sun god's journey is still unknown, but hope has begun to return. Sleep grows lighter. Those who dreamed deeply now stir, drifting closer to waking. Dreams release their hold reluctantly, leaving behind impressions rather than images. Meaning is considered later, after light confirms safety. For now, survival is enough. In homes, lamps burn low. Some are extinguished deliberately, conserving oil for the coming night. Others fade naturally, their task complete. Darkness no longer feels aggressive. It waits. Bodies shift on sleeping mats. Breathing changes. The living world prepares to rise without realizing it. Even those who remain asleep respond to this shift, their tension easing. In temples, the most demanding vigil nears its end. Priests adjust posture slightly, careful not to break the continuity of presence. The gods are believed to be nearing the end of their passage through danger. Assistance remains necessary, but anticipation replaces strain. Outside, the air cools further. This chill is welcomed. It signals renewal, a cleansing breath drawn by the land itself. The desert releases the heat it gathered, allowing balance to return. Stars begin to lose their sharpness. They do not disappear at once. They fade gradually, surrendering their role as guides. Their work is nearly finished. Along the Nile, the water reflects faint hints of change, not light, but possibility. The river continues to flow, indifferent yet essential, carrying with it the memory of night. This hour is rarely marked by ritual action. Instead, it is honored through restraint. Nothing new is begun. Nothing unnecessary is attempted. To interfere now would risk unraveling the careful work of the unseen. Across Egypt, a shared stillness settles, deeper than sleep, quieter than fear. It is the stillness of waiting, practiced and trusted. The world stands on the edge of renewal. And for the first time since sunset, the outcome feels certain. Light returns slowly, almost shyly, brushing the eastern horizon in delicate strokes of pale gold and rose. The darkness of night does not vanish all at once, it withdraws reluctantly, as though aware of the human and divine vigilance that has held it at bay. In homes, sleepers begin to stir more deliberately. Mats are straightened. Amulets are touched one last time before rising. The body prepares to re-enter the world, cautious but certain that the unseen forces have been kept in check. Every small movement carries silent gratitude for safety and balance maintained. Along the Nile, the first reflections of sunlight scatter across the water's surface. Fish stir near the banks. Birds emerge cautiously from reeds and trees, their calls timid at first, then gradually confident. The river glimmers as if acknowledging the sun god's return, carrying light into every current and ripple. In temples, priests begin their final preparations for the day. Doors that have remained closed through the night slowly open, admitting the pale light. Stones and statues, touched by shadows for hours, are revealed again in clarity. Offerings left at night are adjusted and reconfirmed, simple gestures meant to honor the successful passage of darkness. No words are spoken. Silence itself is the prayer. Outside, the land shifts imperceptibly. The coolness of night lifts, replaced by the gentle warmth of early sun. Animals sense the change. Oxen begin to move more purposefully. Donkeys bray softly in recognition of activity. Even the desert seems to exhale, releasing the stillness it has held since sunset. Children awake fully now, brushing away the remnants of sleep. Their eyes scan familiar shapes in the home, offering a subconscious acknowledgement of protection received. Small hands touch amulets, tracing patterns that were practiced long before memory, grounding them in continuity. Along the riverbank, fishermen prepare for their first casts. Nets are checked once more. Boats are nudged gently into water. Movements are careful, deliberate, as if acknowledging the delicate balance that has been preserved through night. Every action reflects respect, not fear, but reverence. The world exhales. The sun rises fully, returning to the sky it has traversed countless times. The invisible battle of night, the hidden rituals of protection, and the careful continuity of human effort have all held firm. Egypt awakens, not in noise or celebration, but in quiet recognition that order has persisted. One day has begun again. By mid-morning, the sun has risen fully, bathing Egypt in steady warmth. Shadows fall predictably, stretching toward the west, marking time in a rhythm older than any city. The land seems to breathe under this light, steady and alive, as if acknowledging the completion of the night's invisible struggle. In homes, daily life resumes in full. Water jars are refilled, floors swept again, and the faint scent of early offerings lingers in the air. Every object touched carries meaning. The movement of hands across cloth, the placement of bread on a tray, the careful arrangement of small statues, all reflect the continuation of ritual, even in seemingly mundane acts. These are silent acknowledgments that life persists under divine order. Outside, the fields are alive with activity. Farmers move along furrows with deliberate caution, their hands guiding plows and tools that dig gently into the soil. The rhythm of labor mirrors the rhythm of the Nile itself, steady and constant. The earth is receptive, yet requires respect. Every seed planted, every row cleared, is both sustenance and homage. Mistakes are corrected without haste or frustration. Disorder is not tolerated lightly. Along the river, boats drift lazily, tethered and guided by gentle oars. Fishermen cast nets carefully, their movements methodical. Each fish captured is received with gratitude, not exuberance. Life is abundant, but abundance is tempered with awareness. Overstepping, even in small ways, risks upsetting balance. Nets are untangled slowly, knots retied with care, and the water is treated as a living, sentient partner. Children walk or run alongside adults, but even their play is shaped by lessons of moderation and attentiveness. They touch sacred amulets, small charms, or symbols traced on walls and floors. These gestures are almost unconscious, yet they carry the weight of protection and continuity. Learning these small rituals is as vital as learning to read the river or plant the seed. In workshops, artisans move with precise, fluid motions. Clay is molded, reeds woven, and pigments ground with measured pressure. The morning light sharpens colors, revealing textures and nuances invisible in dimmer hours. Tools are cleaned and replaced carefully, reflecting the belief that every action contributes to the harmony of the day. Even mistakes are folded into the process with patience. A cracked pot is not simply discarded but examined, understood, and corrected. In temples, offerings placed at dawn are revisited. Priests ensure that food, drink, and symbolic objects remain aligned and untouched by disorder. Incense is rekindled, curling upward in slow spirals, reinforcing a presence that cannot be seen but is deeply felt. The gods, now fully awake, are honored not by noise or spectacle, but by measured attention and deliberate respect. Hymns may be whispered internally, recited silently, or remembered in precise mental sequences. Sound is secondary to intention. The air itself seems alive. The scent of baked bread from kitchens blends with the earthy aroma of tilled fields and the faint tang of the Nile. Birds move above in soft, controlled arcs. Wind brushes lightly across reeds and palms, a reminder that even elements beyond human control are participants in this unfolding day. Even as the sun climbs, small pauses punctuate movement. Hands rest briefly over amulets. Eyes linger on familiar patterns of stone and water. Breaths are taken slowly, reinforcing calm and attention. These moments are invisible, yet essential. Each is a quiet affirmation that life, order, and devotion persist. The day's early tension has dissipated. Chaos, momentarily a threat during the night, has been held at bay. What remains now is rhythm, stability, and the subtle acknowledgement that every act, however ordinary, contributes to a world governed by careful balance. Time flows forward, but under the watch of sun and gods, it feels secure, measured, and complete. As the sun climbs past its zenith, subtle celebrations begin, almost hidden from the casual observer. These are not loud festivals with drums and dancing, but private, measured observances that honor gods, ancestors, and the cycles of life. They are woven into the fabric of daily routine, so quiet that one might mistake them for ordinary acts if unaware of their deeper meaning. In homes, women arrange small offerings of flowers, bread, and perfume at household shrines. Each gesture is deliberate, petals are carefully placed, incense sticks set upright in prepared clay, and bread torn with precision before being laid on tiny plates. No words are spoken, intention carries all significance. Even the motion of straightening a mat or adjusting a lamp becomes ritualized, a minor homage to order, balance, and protection. Children, guided by memory and observation rather than instruction, participate in these quiet ceremonies. Their small hands touch amulets, trace protective symbols on doorframes, or offer crumbs of bread at shrines. These acts teach them responsibility and awareness, embedding belief into the rhythm of their daily lives. Along the Nile, fishermen acknowledge the sun god with soft gestures. A tilted head toward the east, a brief pause before casting a net, or a moment of silence when a fish is pulled from the water, all are considered offerings. No one applauds or calls attention, these are private recognitions of the divine presence that governs life's sustenance. In workshops and marketplaces, artisans pause mid-task to honor their craft. A potter traces a thumb along wet clay, whispering silent respect to the spirit believed to inhabit the material. A weaver touches a finished mat with deliberate reverence, knowing that the work carries more than utility, it carries harmony, a reflection of cosmic order. Even animals are part of these quiet festivals. Cattle are guided with gentle hands, their backs brushed as a form of blessing. Birds released for brief observation are watched with care, the balance of freedom and restraint acknowledged. Each life is considered a participant in a larger ritual tapestry, sustaining the invisible bonds between humans, gods, and nature. In temples, priests observe minor ceremonies that mark specific moments of the sun's journey. Flames are trimmed, incense adjusted, and offerings shifted in exact alignment with the positions of light and shadow. The rituals are subtle, almost imperceptible, yet essential. These acts reinforce the order of the cosmos, maintaining boundaries that protect both divine and human realms. Silence dominates, punctuated only by deliberate movements that carry precise meaning. Throughout Egypt, these understated celebrations continue in parallel. One might walk through a village without noticing any change in activity, yet every person contributes to a synchronized web of devotion. Harmony is maintained not through spectacle, but through careful attention to detail, repetition, and measured action. The sun continues its steady climb, casting warm light across stone, river, and sand. Each gesture, each pause, each quietly observed act is a note in the unseen symphony of the day, a song of balance, safety, and continuity that requires neither voice nor audience. Time flows, unbroken and secure, under the careful watch of sun, river, and unseen guardians. As the sun reaches its highest strength and begins its slow descent, the land takes on a golden shimmer. Heat radiates from stone walls, riverbanks, and the open fields, reminding all who move through the day that careful timing is essential. The afternoon carries its own quiet rituals, distinct from those performed at dawn or during the early morning. Along the Nile, small ceremonies unfold that are often invisible to outsiders. Fishermen pause before casting nets, offering silent acknowledgement to the river spirits believed to dwell within its currents. Hands hover over the water briefly, tracing symbols in thought rather than in action. Even the subtlest gesture is considered a bridge between human effort and divine order. Nets are cast with deliberate slowness, each movement is mindful, as if the river itself watches and measures intention. In homes, midday chores blend seamlessly into ritual practice. Floors are swept again, mats adjusted, and water poured carefully into vessels to symbolize purification. Every action doubles as both necessity and devotion. A cup of water set near a shrine is not just for use, it is a mark of attentiveness, a quiet acknowledgement that unseen eyes are always present. Children assist in these activities, guided more by observation than instruction. Tiny hands brush crumbs toward sacred spaces, flowers are positioned at shrines, and amulets are touched repeatedly. The simplicity of their tasks belies their importance, each gesture contributes to the maintenance of order, grounding both the household and its occupants in a protective rhythm. Artisans in workshops continue their precise work, but now with added reflection. A potter, for instance, presses clay with care, pausing mid-motion to trace a small pattern believed to invite stability and success. A weaver examines the symmetry of a mat, adjusting a strand to ensure balance, both practical and symbolic. These acts, while productive, are simultaneously prayers enacted through movement. Within temples, the afternoon is marked by subtle, private ceremonies that honor specific deities associated with life, fertility, and protection. Flames are trimmed, incense repositioned, and offerings carefully rotated. Priests move with deliberate restraint, their bodies conveying devotion more than their voices. Hymns, if recited, are whispered or performed mentally, relying on memorized rhythm rather than sound. The sacred spaces themselves absorb these intentions, holding the divine presence in measured suspension until the evening approaches. Even the land participates. Palm leaves shift softly in the breeze, shadows stretch and bend with the sun's movement, and the river flows steadily, reflecting light in endless patterns. Animals respond naturally, oxen graze with patient chewing, donkeys plod quietly, and birds settle briefly on branches, their motion subdued and synchronized with the larger order of the day. The overall atmosphere is one of attentive calm. Activity continues, but it is tempered by awareness. Excess is avoided, gestures are precise, thoughtfulness guides action. Each person contributes to a web of ritual that extends across the land, uniting households, fields, temples, and the river itself into a coherent, protective whole. The afternoon deepens, stretching toward evening. The sun's warmth begins to soften slightly, signaling that a transition is near. Preparations for evening observances begin quietly, lamps are checked, shrines readied, and offerings refreshed. Every act remains deliberate, maintaining the rhythm of devotion that underpins daily life. The day is steady, alive, and purposeful. Every movement, no matter how small, reinforces the invisible framework that keeps both humans and gods in balance. As the afternoon slowly yields to evening, the light changes once more. The sun tilts toward the west, stretching shadows into long, thin fingers that crawl across fields, riverbanks, and streets. Colors deepen, stone glows warmly, the Nile's surface becomes a moving mirror of amber and gold. This time is considered sacred, a threshold when the day's labor and morning rituals culminate, and new observances quietly begin. In homes, attention shifts from work to preparation. Mats are straightened, water jars topped, and lamps inspected. Small offerings are refreshed, bread may be replaced, flowers rearranged, incense positioned for evening burning. These acts are quiet but deliberate, each a silent recognition of the sun god's gradual descent and the protection required before night arrives. Children move more slowly now, guided by habit. Their fingers trace amulets, touch the patterns on walls, and place small tokens near shrines. They observe elders with careful attention, absorbing rituals into memory. Even their play is tempered by the day's accumulated awareness, joy is present but controlled, deliberate, never careless. Along the river, boats drift lazily. Nets are checked and rolled with care, oars rested against the hulls. The water, reflecting the low sun, seems warmer and heavier. Fishermen pause to honor the river spirits, their gestures subtle, a tilt of the head, a silent thought, a brief touch of water, before the night's unseen forces become more active. Artisans return to finishing touches on their work. A potter polishes clay, smoothing surfaces that will soon harden fully. A weaver tightens final strands, ensuring symmetry. These gestures are both practical and symbolic, blending the day's labor with devotion. Even a minor correction is treated with reverence, for it reinforces order and harmony. In temples, priests move through calculated sequences, adjusting offerings, trimming flames, and positioning incense so that smoke curls predictably toward sacred icons. The gods are believed to be preparing for their own night journey, descending from the visible world into hidden realms. Careful attention ensures that divine presence is contained, stabilized, and guided safely. Sound is minimized, motion is precise, every act matters. Outside, birds return to roosts, animals quiet, and the desert's edge seems to draw the day's energy into stillness. The air cools slightly, carrying relief and signaling the approaching transition. Even the wind moves more softly, as if aware that its time to intervene will soon come. The land itself feels attentive. Every shadow, ripple, and movement participates in a subtle harmony. Daylight and warmth persist, but anticipation is in the air. The threshold of night is near, and with it comes a need for preparation, reflection, and ritualized respect for the unseen forces that govern the dark hours. The approach of evening is both an ending and a beginning. The labor, the offerings, and the quiet festivals of the day converge toward a pause, a moment of contemplation and measured attention, where humans and gods share a silent understanding before darkness fully arrives. As the sun dips lower, its light softens into deep amber, bathing the land in a warm, forgiving glow. Shadows stretch long and lean, reaching across walls, fields, and the Nile's reflective surface. This is a sacred interval, a time when the rituals of the afternoon give way to observances meant to honor the closing day and the approaching night. In homes, small offerings are prepared and arranged at shrines. Bread, water, and flowers are placed with meticulous care. Incense is lit, its smoke curling upward in delicate spirals, carrying both scent and intention toward unseen eyes. Each gesture is deliberate, the hands move slowly, as if aware that every motion contributes to the maintenance of order and divine favor. Children participate quietly, performing small, learned gestures, adjusting amulets, touching symbols drawn on walls or floors, and placing tiny crumbs or petals near household deities. These are not games but lessons in devotion, teaching the balance between attentiveness and restraint. Every act reinforces the household's connection to unseen forces. Along the Nile, fishermen engage in brief ceremonial gestures before stowing their nets and securing boats for the night. Hands brush the water in a silent acknowledgement of the river spirits. Nets are coiled methodically, knots retied, and oars rested with care. The water's reflective surface glimmers like molten gold, holding the last rays of the sun as if aware of its own sacred role in sustaining life. Artisans take a moment to pause, inspecting the day's work with careful attention. A potter traces a finger along the rim of a vessel, smoothing edges and affirming precision. A weaver tightens strands and ensures symmetry, knowing that minor corrections reflect order in both craft and cosmos. These gestures, though subtle, function as offerings themselves, a blending of labor and reverence. In temples, evening rites are conducted with heightened precision. Priests move slowly through the inner chambers, adjusting offerings and trimming flames. Incense smoke curls toward the statues of gods, imbuing the air with the scent of devotion. Silent chants or mental hymns accompany gestures, ensuring that divine presence is guided safely into night. No movement is wasted, no sound is unnecessary. Even the positioning of each object is intentional, maintaining cosmic balance as sunlight fades. Animals, too, respond to this transitional hour. Oxen and donkeys move more cautiously, grazing or resting in measured patterns. Birds settle into their roosts. The riverbank, desert edges, and cultivated land seem to hold their breath collectively, preparing for the shift that darkness brings. The land itself participates in ritual. Light softens and deepens, shadows stretch, and the air cools subtly. Even the wind slows, carrying the quiet scent of earth, water, and incense across villages and temples alike. This convergence of motion, stillness, and scent forms an invisible thread binding humans, animals, and gods together. The evening rituals before sunset are understated but powerful. They do not demand attention, yet they define the rhythm of life, bridging the day's labor and the night's protective observances. Each act, silent, deliberate, and mindful, reinforces the belief that order endures, that the unseen is acknowledged, and that the delicate balance between humans, gods, and nature remains intact. As the sun nears the horizon, the stage is set. The day's final light prepares the land for the coming night, and all who live under it move with quiet reverence, ready for the sacred passage that awaits. The sun hovers just above the horizon, its light warm and liquid, spilling across Nile reeds and sun-baked stone. This is the hour when the day's ordinary rituals give way to the first of the evening festivals, celebrations that are quiet, introspective, and deeply rooted in devotion. Unlike the public spectacles one might imagine, these festivals are subtle, often private, yet universally practiced, binding households, temples, and fields into a shared rhythm. In homes, small lamps are lit near household shrines, their flames dancing gently in the softening light. Fresh offerings of bread, water, and flowers are placed, each movement deliberate, measured, and precise. Even the act of pouring a sip of water into a small dish becomes a ritual, a gesture of acknowledgement to the gods and ancestors. The air fills with the scent of incense, curling in slow spirals, carrying intention silently toward divine presence. Children participate with quiet attentiveness. They place small objects at shrines, touch protective amulets, and trace familiar symbols along walls or floors. Each motion is taught by repetition rather than instruction, instilling awareness of balance, protection, and the invisible forces that shape daily life. Their play is intertwined with devotion, a subtle education in the rhythm of order. Along the Nile, fishermen observe brief ceremonies before securing their boats for the night. Hands hover over the water in gestures of reverence, nets are rolled with care, and oars rest alongside hulls. Even the river itself seems to hold its breath, reflecting amber and rose hues, acknowledging the presence of those who honor it through subtle ritual. Artisans, too, participate in quiet observances. Potters trace delicate patterns along clay vessels, weavers check symmetry and tighten strands, and scribes carefully review the day's writings, touching each glyph with awareness. Every act of creation becomes both practical and sacred, merging labor with devotion. Mistakes are corrected without haste, as even small imperfections can disrupt the balance of the household or temple. In temples, priests conduct the first of the evening rites. The inner chambers are dimly lit, incense curls steadily toward statues of the gods, and offerings are adjusted to ensure proper alignment. Silence dominates the sacred space, punctuated only by deliberate movement. Hymns are sometimes recited mentally, their rhythm internalized rather than spoken aloud. These ceremonies reinforce the presence of the divine, guide the sun god's descent, and maintain cosmic order as daylight fades. Animals respond to the lowering sun with calm movements. Oxen rest or graze quietly, donkeys plod with measured steps, and birds settle in branches. Even the riverbank and desert edges seem to participate, holding a shared pause as the day moves toward night. The first evening festivals are understated but potent. They require no audience, no music, and no grand gestures. Their power lies in repetition, attention to detail, and the shared understanding across households and temples that devotion maintains order. The fading sun casts long, gentle shadows, and every action, however small, is an offering to the gods and a reaffirmation of the balance that preserves life. The day bends toward night, and all Egypt participates, silently, in this quiet celebration. The sun slips fully below the horizon, leaving a sky streaked with deep amber, rose, and violet. Shadows merge into the approaching darkness, and the world holds its breath. This is the hour when the day's visible labor ends, but the work of protection intensifies. The unseen forces that move most freely in darkness are believed to be strongest now, and humans respond with deliberate care. In homes, lamps are lit in measured patterns, casting controlled pools of light. Floors and thresholds are inspected, small protective symbols are traced along doorways and walls with fingers or chalk. Amulets are adjusted, ensuring they rest properly against skin or near sleeping spaces. Every action is a reinforcement of boundaries, a quiet act of defense against the uncertainties that come with night. Children are settled into mats, their movements calm and attentive. Even in sleep, they are surrounded by layers of protection, charms, household rituals, and the habitual attentiveness of adults. Their rest is considered part of the larger ritual framework, a continuation of the day's devotion. Along the Nile, boats are secured. Ropes are checked, nets tied carefully, and oars laid flat. Fishermen pause briefly to honor river spirits, acknowledging that the river's surface, though now dark, still holds power and needs careful respect. The water reflects the last traces of sunset, a mirror of protection for those who approach it with reverence. Artisans finish their tasks and prepare tools for the following day. Clay is smoothed, strands of weave tightened, and scribes store their brushes carefully. Even these small acts are imbued with ritual significance. To leave objects in order is to honor stability, ensuring that the household and community remain aligned with the cosmos. In temples, evening protection rites are performed with precision. Priests move through chambers with minimal sound, adjusting offerings, trimming flames, and positioning incense. The gods are believed to journey through unseen realms at night, and these acts help guide and shield them. Silence is essential, any extraneous noise could disturb the fragile balance. Mental hymns are recited, and gestures are performed with measured intent, each one a contribution to maintaining order and safety. Animals respond subtly to the lowering light. Oxen pause, donkeys shift to stable positions, and birds roost quietly. Even the desert at the horizon seems to exhale, holding stillness and watching the unfolding human care below. Every household and temple participates in this protective choreography. The night is anticipated with neither fear nor haste, but with disciplined attention. Each action, lamp lit, symbol traced, amulet adjusted, is a silent affirmation, the unseen is recognized, boundaries are maintained, and order is preserved. The day is over, but vigilance continues. Darkness has arrived, and Egypt's rituals of protection have just begun. Night deepens over Egypt, thickening the air with stillness and quiet. The last traces of sunset fade, leaving the land under a canopy of stars that glimmer like distant eyes, steady and watchful. Darkness is no longer transitional, it is complete, enveloping fields, riverbanks, villages, and temples alike. This is the time when vigilance is most necessary, when protective rituals, though subtle, hold the greatest importance. In homes, lamps burn low, casting soft, contained circles of light. Every threshold, doorway, and window is observed carefully, for the night carries risks invisible to daylight. Small symbols traced earlier are checked again, amulets touched, and offerings repositioned if needed. Nothing is left to chance, even a minor misalignment is corrected quietly. Adults move with deliberate restraint, understanding that carelessness invites disorder. Children sleep deeply, cushioned by these preparations. Even their breathing is monitored in subtle ways, ensuring that protective rituals are unbroken around them. In some homes, a hand rests lightly over an amulet near the head of a sleeper, a gesture repeated for generations, as old as the belief itself. Along the Nile, the river's surface darkens to mirror black, reflecting only starlight. Fishermen remain on shore or in securely moored boats. Small gestures of respect to river spirits continue, hands hover lightly above water, nets are adjusted carefully, and oars are positioned to rest without disturbing the flow. The river itself is part of the protective rhythm, alive and attentive, requiring recognition even in darkness. Artisans pause completely, tools set aside, materials arranged neatly. Clay is smoothed, strands of weaving aligned, brushes stored upright. The day's labor has ended, but the care invested in these objects continues to maintain order, ensuring the household remains in balance through the night. Even stillness is part of the ritual. In temples, night rituals proceed with solemn precision. Priests move through inner chambers, tending incense that curls like smoke thoughts toward statues of the gods. Offerings are monitored, flames trimmed, and sacred objects aligned. Silence dominates, broken only by the occasional breath, footstep, or subtle adjustment. The gods, believed to traverse the unseen realms at this hour, are guided and protected through these quiet observances. Every gesture is intentional, reinforcing cosmic stability while the sun rests below the horizon. Animals mirror the human caution. Oxen stand quietly, donkeys shift minimally, and birds are roost. Even the desert beyond seems to hold itself in attentive watchfulness. The rhythms of life continue, but in subtle, careful ways that honor the unseen order. Stars are constant, their patterns used as both guides and markers of time. Observers read them silently, checking alignment with sacred expectations. Every movement in the night, no matter how minor, is measured against these celestial signs. Vigilance is not panic, it is disciplined awareness. Time stretches slowly. The night is long, but structured. Each act of preparation, protection, and observation ensures that darkness remains manageable, that life persists safely, and that the transition back to day will unfold without disruption. The night deepens. The guardianship of humans, gods, and nature continues, silent, careful, and complete. Deep into the night, the world grows quiet beyond measure. Darkness blankets the land fully, and the familiar forms of homes, river, and fields are transformed into shapes of shadow and suggestion. This is the hour when ritual shifts from practical protection to symbolic and mystical observances, subtle gestures meant to reinforce the unseen structure of the cosmos. In homes, small lamps flicker softly, their glow limited but intentional. Shadows dance along walls, revealing shapes that invite careful attention. Amulets are held in hands, turned deliberately toward doorways or sleeping areas. Each movement, though slight, carries meaning, an affirmation that the household is aligned with cosmic balance and that the protective forces called upon during the day remain vigilant. Children sleep under layers of care. Their mats are positioned with exactness, and small charms are placed near them to guard against dreams that may disturb the soul. Even in unconsciousness, they are participants in the nightly rituals, the rhythm of attention around them sustaining both their safety and the household's harmony. Along the Nile, the river flows silently, reflecting the faint starlight like a mirror of infinity. Fishermen, though inactive, maintain a presence of acknowledgement. Hands hover lightly above the water, tracing imagined symbols. Even the smallest gestures are believed to remind the river spirits of the human devotion that sustains life and ensures safe passage for the sun god through the underworld. Artisans, long finished with the day's work, engage in contemplative observation of their creations. A potter runs a finger across the rim of a vessel, sensing imperfections not just in form but in the unseen harmony it embodies. A weaver traces patterns on a completed mat, imagining each thread as a line in the greater order of the universe. These gestures are subtle prayers, blending creation, reflection, and devotion. In temples, priests perform rites that are almost invisible to the casual observer. Movements are slow, deliberate, and continuous, incense curls in carefully measured spirals, offerings are realigned, flames are monitored to maintain steady, balanced light. The gods are thought to journey through realms of darkness at this hour, and the rituals serve as both guide and safeguard. Hymns are often whispered mentally rather than spoken aloud, echoing in the mind instead of the air. The sacred presence is maintained through attention, precision, and intention alone. The land itself seems to join the rituals. Palm fronds rustle lightly with the night breeze, the Nile's current murmurs softly, and even distant sands of the desert seem to exhale, holding space for human, animal, and divine interaction. All life moves with restraint, conserving energy, remaining alert, and participating silently in the nocturnal balance. The stars, now dominant in the sky, act as both witnesses and guides. Observers check their positions carefully, tracing movements across the heavens as if reading the invisible order of time itself. Even without spoken acknowledgement, these celestial markers reinforce rhythm, ritual, and the continuity of the day's devotion. At this mystical hour, the night is not threatening but sacred. Every small act, whether a hand over an amulet, a vessel smoothed, a net coiled, or incense adjusted, contributes to the alignment of humans, gods, and nature. The invisible web of protection and order is maintained with meticulous attention, ensuring that when the sun begins its slow return, life will continue in harmony. The night stretches onward, heavy with quiet significance, alive with subtle movement, and imbued with sacred intent. As the night moves toward its final stretch, a subtle shift ripples through Egypt. Darkness remains complete, yet the tension eases slightly. This is the pre-dawn hour, when the protective rituals of the night begin their gradual conclusion, and the land, river, and people prepare for the sun's imminent return. In homes, lamps burn low, just enough to maintain visibility without disturbing the quiet of the hour. Amulets are touched one last time, symbols traced carefully on walls and doorframes reaffirming boundaries. The household pauses, every movement deliberate. Even breaths are tempered, as if silence itself preserves the delicate order that has been maintained throughout the night. Children sleep deeply, cushioned by layers of protection, charms, thoughtful placement of mats, and the ongoing vigilance of adults. Their unconscious state is considered sacred, their dreams part of the larger rhythm of life, both human and divine. Any disruption at this hour is avoided, the balance of night rituals is still fragile. Along the Nile, the river moves silently under the stars, reflecting the faint glow of early celestial light. Fishermen, though resting, keep one hand near their nets or oars, a habitual gesture acknowledging the river spirits who govern abundance and risk. Even minimal motion is imbued with meaning, carelessness is avoided, for unseen forces are believed to be most attentive before dawn. Artisans remain still or engage in minor, contemplative actions. Potters trace rims of vessels with gentle precision, weavers adjust the tiniest thread in completed mats, and scribes review symbols silently, ensuring continuity of thought and devotion. These acts, though quiet, are considered offerings, maintaining balance through vigilance and attention. In temples, priests prepare the final protective observances of night. Offerings are checked, incense is adjusted, and flames are trimmed so that sacred light remains steady until sunrise. Hymns may be recited internally, gestures repeated, each movement measured and deliberate. The gods, traversing unseen realms, are guided safely, their journey assisted by these quiet rituals. Silence dominates, broken only by intentional action. The land itself seems to participate. Palm fronds sway gently in the cool pre-dawn breeze, the Nile's surface ripples softly, reflecting stars in fragmented patterns, animals stir minimally, their instincts aligned with human attentiveness. Even the desert edge seems to hold itself still, aware of the impending transition. Time slows. Each minute carries weight. The pre-dawn hour is delicate, a bridge between the protective vigilance of night and the renewal of day. Every action, gesture, and thought reinforces the continuity of life, both seen and unseen. The world waits together, humans, gods, and nature alike, for the first touch of sunlight that will signal the cycle's renewal. The eastern sky begins to pale, shifting from indigo to soft hues of lavender and rose. This is the moment when night loosens its hold, and the first touch of sunlight promises renewal. Darkness retreats gradually, revealing the forms of stone, river, and sand in gentle clarity. The pre-dawn rituals, practiced silently through the night, reach their culmination as humans, animals, and gods all respond to the returning light. In homes, sleepers stir. Children awaken slowly, cushioned by layers of protection placed during the night. Mats are adjusted, amulets traced lightly over chests, and offerings near shrines are repositioned. These gestures are small but essential, reinforcing the safety and balance preserved through hours of vigilance. Adults move deliberately, ensuring that every threshold, doorway, and window aligns with the ritual framework established the night before. Along the Nile, the river reflects the faint colors of sunrise, the water shimmering as though acknowledging the return of the sun god. Fishermen prepare their boats for the new day, pausing to honor the river spirits. Nets are unrolled carefully, and oars positioned with precision. Even the smallest motion is imbued with intention, a continuation of the protective observances that have guided life through darkness. Artisans engage with their tools again, but in quiet reflection rather than hurried work. Potters trace rims of vessels, confirming smoothness, weavers check the symmetry of mats, scribes review inscriptions, mentally reciting patterns learned by memory. Every gesture embodies both utility and devotion, blending the practical and sacred in a seamless rhythm. In temples, priests perform the final acts of the night's vigil. Incense curls upward from carefully placed burners, flames are adjusted to steady brightness, and offerings are confirmed in alignment with sacred expectations. The gods, believed to have traveled unseen through realms of night, are guided back into the visible world. Hymns are internalized rather than spoken, rhythm and intention maintaining the cosmic balance as sunlight approaches. Animals respond subtly to the changing light. Birds stir and begin tentative calls, oxen shift in quiet grazing, and donkeys stretch their legs. The desert and riverbank seem to exhale collectively, aware that the cycle of day and night is returning to order. Across Egypt, households, fields, and temples participate in this silent chorus. Gestures repeated countless times over generations reinforce protection, harmony, and devotion. Every small act, touching an amulet, adjusting a mat, trimming a flame, is both acknowledgement and prayer. As the horizon brightens, the first slivers of sunlight fall on stone walls, reeds, and the water's surface. The cycle is complete, the protective night has held firm, the mystical hours of darkness have passed, and life is ready to resume its visible rhythm under the sun's renewed presence. The day begins again, fresh yet continuous, sustained by the careful devotion of countless hands, eyes, and hearts. With the sun now climbing fully into the sky, the land is bathed in a steady, warm light. Shadows shrink to familiar angles, and Egypt hums with life once more. This is the hour of morning reaffirmation, when the rituals of protection and devotion from the previous night are revisited, ensuring that the order maintained during darkness continues unbroken through the day. In homes, lamps that were kept low or extinguished during pre-dawn begin to shine brighter. Offerings of bread, water, and flowers are replaced or refreshed at household shrines. Hands move carefully, aligning every item with practiced precision. Even small gestures, like the tilt of a cup or the placement of a flower petal, carry intention. They are quiet affirmations that the protective framework of the household remains intact. Children, now fully awake, participate with attentive focus. They trace amulets along walls and floors, offer small crumbs or petals at shrines, and repeat symbolic gestures learned by repetition. Through these subtle actions, they internalize the rhythm of devotion, the awareness of unseen forces, and the continuity of the cosmic order. Their play is intertwined with ritual, blending learning, reverence, and daily life seamlessly. Along the Nile, fishermen resume their tasks, casting nets and tending boats with careful acknowledgement of river spirits. Even routine movements are performed with mindfulness, hands linger briefly over water, nets are checked and coiled deliberately, oars are positioned to maintain balance. The river itself is part of the ritual, its currents both sustenance and a reminder of the care required to maintain harmony. Artisans return to their workspaces with renewed focus. Potters smooth clay vessels with deliberate strokes, weavers tighten threads to ensure symmetry, and scribes review inscriptions with measured attention. Each act of creation is both practical and sacred, blending labor with devotion. Mistakes are corrected thoughtfully, for imperfection can disrupt harmony. In temples, priests perform morning reaffirmations with deliberate solemnity. Flames are trimmed, incense replaced or repositioned, and offerings checked. Even silent gestures, mental hymns, and careful attention to alignment serve as prayers, ensuring that the gods remain properly guided and that cosmic balance persists. Movement is precise, sound minimized, and focus absolute. The environment itself participates. Palm fronds sway lightly, reeds reflect sunlight, and the desert seems to pulse with quiet energy. Birds call softly, animals move in rhythmic, deliberate patterns, and the river reflects the brightening sky with shimmering clarity. Every element reinforces the rituals of humans, blending nature and devotion into a seamless continuum. Morning reaffirmations are subtle yet essential. They signal continuity between night and day, the endurance of protective rituals, and the integration of humans, gods, and the natural world. Through these repeated, attentive gestures, the unseen framework that governs life remains intact, and the land thrives under both visible and invisible care. The day proceeds, calm and orderly, every movement a continuation of devotion, every gesture a small but crucial reinforcement of balance. As the sun reaches its zenith, the day's activity settles into a measured rhythm. The heat is steady, shadows sharp, and the land seems to pulse with quiet vitality. This is the hour of second daytime rituals, subtle observances woven into ordinary life, reinforcing protection, gratitude, and devotion without disrupting the ongoing work of households, fields, or temples. In homes, offerings are refreshed once more. Bread is replaced, flowers rearranged, and water replenished. Even the smallest adjustments carry meaning: a tilt of a cup, a repositioned petal, a lightly traced symbol on a wall. These gestures are reminders that the household is aligned with the cosmic order and that the gods are present in both visible and invisible ways. Children, now accustomed to the rhythm of devotion, assist quietly. They place amulets near sleeping areas, touch household symbols, or leave small tokens of bread and petals at shrines. Through repetition, they absorb not only the gestures but the principles of attentiveness, patience, and respect that sustain harmony. Their work is part of the day's ritual, learning through practice rather than instruction. Along the Nile, fishermen perform small observances before taking nets or tending boats. Hands hover above water in brief gestures of acknowledgement, a silent dialogue with the river spirits. Even the most practical labor, coiling nets, adjusting oars, is imbued with intention, connecting human effort with the rhythms of nature and divine guardianship. Artisans continue their tasks with contemplative care. Potters smooth clay vessels, checking every curve for precision. Weavers inspect mats, adjusting individual strands to ensure symmetry. Scribes review inscriptions, silently tracing glyphs to maintain perfection. Each motion is simultaneously practical and sacred, blending craft and devotion seamlessly. Even mistakes are treated as opportunities for reaffirmation, a chance to correct and restore harmony. In temples, the midday rituals are understated yet vital. Flames are trimmed, incense smoke adjusted, and offerings aligned carefully. Priests move with slow precision, ensuring that the god's presence is guided and stable. Mental recitation of hymns accompanies subtle gestures, every movement is calculated to maintain cosmic order. Sound is secondary to intention, and every act reinforces the connection between humans and the divine. The natural world responds in kind. Birds navigate the sky with quiet grace, oxen graze calmly, and the Nile reflects sunlight in shimmering patterns. Even the desert beyond the cultivated land seems attuned to this rhythm, its sands and wind participating silently in the continuity of the day's order. This second round of daytime rituals is quiet but potent. It emphasizes repetition, attention to detail, and the seamless integration of labor, devotion, and vigilance. Every act strengthens the invisible web of protection, ensuring that balance persists even as human activity continues. The day moves forward under a steady sun, alive with subtle devotion, careful observation, and measured action. Harmony is maintained, unseen forces acknowledged, and life flows uninterrupted. The sun begins its gradual decline, tilting toward the western horizon and casting long, golden shadows across the land. The heat softens, and a gentle calm settles over fields, villages, and riverbanks. This is the time when the day's ordinary labors ease and the focus shifts toward evening observances, protective rituals, and small festivals marking the transition from light to dark. In homes, preparations for evening begin quietly. Mats are straightened, lamps inspected, and shrines refreshed. Bread, water, and flowers are replaced or adjusted, each action deliberate and precise. Amulets are checked and moved slightly if needed, maintaining alignment with protective intentions established earlier in the day. Every gesture is a continuation of devotion, a reinforcement of cosmic order as daylight wanes. Children participate with gentle attentiveness. They trace familiar symbols on walls and floors, touch amulets, and place small offerings near shrines. Play is intertwined with ritual, their movements are deliberate, their attention focused, and their participation ensures the household remains aligned with both human and divine rhythms. Along the Nile, fishermen prepare boats for the evening. Nets are carefully coiled and stowed, oars laid flat, and hands lifted briefly in acknowledgement of river spirits. The water glimmers in fading sunlight, reflecting the sky's shifting colors and reminding all observers of the ongoing bond between humans, nature, and the unseen world. Artisans finish the day's work, pausing to ensure that everything is in order. Potters smooth the rims of clay vessels, weavers adjust threads for perfect symmetry, and scribes review their inscriptions with precise attention. Each act reinforces the connection between labor, devotion, and protection, reminding humans that their craft is inseparable from ritual care. In temples, evening rites begin in measured sequences. Flames are trimmed, incense is positioned to curl predictably toward divine icons, and offerings are aligned with care. Priests move deliberately, maintaining silence and focus. Mental hymns accompany gestures, ensuring that the gods' journey through the coming night will be guided and safeguarded. The sacred spaces are alive with invisible motion, though to the casual eye all appears still. Animals reflect the transition as well. Oxen pause in grazing, donkeys shift gently, and birds settle for the night. The desert seems to exhale along with the wind, participating in the shared attentiveness that marks this hour. Even the river's currents seem to slow, acknowledging the approaching darkness. The slow descent of day is a quiet celebration. Subtle festivals unfold in every home and temple, emphasizing attention, precision, and devotion rather than noise or spectacle. Each gesture, tracing symbols, adjusting amulets, refreshing offerings, is a note in an invisible hymn of order and protection. As the sun tilts closer to the horizon, the world seems to pause, poised between day and night, labor and ritual, protection and renewal. The cycle of devotion continues, steady and unwavering, preparing all of Egypt for the sacred transition to evening. The sun dips below the horizon, casting the world in molten gold and fiery crimson. Shadows stretch and merge, and the land, river, and stone seem to glow with the last warm light of the day. This is the hour of evening festivals, when daily life pauses and households, temples, and fields align in quiet celebration and devotion. The rituals are subtle yet potent, marking the transition from active day to protective night. In homes, lamps are lit carefully, their flames steady and controlled. Bread, water, and flowers are arranged at shrines with meticulous attention. Amulets are touched and repositioned, ensuring their alignment with protective intentions. Every gesture is deliberate, a prayer enacted through motion, confirming that boundaries are intact and that the unseen forces overseeing the household are acknowledged. Children participate in the rituals, performing small, guided gestures. They place tiny offerings, touch amulets, or trace familiar symbols on walls and floors. Even in their quiet play, the continuity of devotion is maintained, and lessons of attentiveness, patience, and respect are silently reinforced. Along the Nile, boats drift lazily, nets rolled and stowed with care. Fishermen lift hands briefly over water in gestures of acknowledgement to river spirits. The currents, now shaded by evening light, seem to shimmer with reverent calm. Every motion, even the smallest adjustment of oars or ropes, carries significance, bridging human effort with divine observance. Artisans pause from work, observing and adjusting the day's creations. A potter smooths clay vessels one final time, a weaver inspects each line of the mat, a scribe traces glyphs carefully with fingers, checking for perfection. These acts are practical and sacred at once, blending labor with devotion, reinforcing harmony within the household and the cosmos. In temples, priests conduct evening festivals with slow, deliberate sequences. Flames are trimmed to steady brightness, incense curls predictably toward statues of the gods, and offerings are confirmed in alignment with sacred protocols. Mental hymns accompany gestures, and silence predominates. The gods, believed to traverse unseen realms at this hour, are guided and protected through careful ritual, maintaining cosmic balance as darkness approaches. Animals respond subtly. Birds settle in trees and reeds, oxen pause, and donkeys shift minimally in grazing areas. Even the desert seems to still itself, holding space for the unfolding rituals below. The river mirrors the sky's fading light, carrying a reflection of devotion across its surface. These evening festivals are understated but powerful. They do not require spectacle or noise, their strength lies in repetition, attention, and intention. Every gesture, from tracing a symbol to adjusting an offering, is an act of devotion and protection. Together, they form a web of continuity connecting households, temples, and natural elements into a seamless rhythm of life. As the sun disappears completely, the first true night descends. The day's labors are complete, the festivals observed, and the land, people, and gods are aligned. Darkness is imminent, but through careful attention, order and protection endure. With the sun fully gone, night envelopes Egypt in a deep, velvety darkness. Stars glimmer across the sky like distant eyes, steady and eternal, observing the land below. This is the hour when night's protective rituals reach their fullest intensity, guarding homes, temples, and fields from unseen threats while preserving harmony for the hours of darkness. In homes, lamps burn softly, casting gentle circles of light. Thresholds and doorways are examined one last time, symbols are traced carefully, amulets adjusted, and offerings checked. Every gesture is slow, deliberate, and meaningful. Even small movements, a finger brushing a symbol, a cup tilted slightly, carry the weight of protection, reinforcing the household's alignment with cosmic order. Children lie sleeping, cradled by layers of care. Their mats are arranged with precision, and charms placed nearby ensure continuity of safety. Even in dreams, the rhythm of ritual remains intact, for human vigilance continues through the structured environment established by attentive hands. Along the Nile, boats are securely moored. Nets are coiled, oars positioned with care, and hands lifted in brief acknowledgement of river spirits. The water reflects the starlight, dark but alive, as though aware of the silent devotion guiding both human and divine interactions. The river's subtle movement becomes a mirror of vigilance, reminding observers that even the natural world participates in protection. Artisans, having finished their day's work, engage in final contemplations. Potters run fingers along the rims of clay vessels, sensing smoothness and perfection. Weavers adjust the tiniest threads, and scribes silently trace glyphs with exacting care. These acts, though quiet, are sacred, they blend devotion, precision, and protection, ensuring that both creations and household remain aligned with unseen forces. In temples, deep night rites are performed with solemnity. Priests move slowly through sacred spaces, adjusting incense, trimming flames, and arranging offerings with meticulous care. Mental hymns accompany gestures, the sacred energy maintained through focus rather than sound. Gods, believed to traverse hidden realms during this hour, are guided safely by these actions, and cosmic balance is preserved. The natural world mirrors the vigilance of humans. Birds roost silently, oxen pause in grazing, and donkeys shift minimally, their movements subdued. The desert seems to breathe softly, its sands and winds aligned with the silent rhythm of protection unfolding below. Even the river's gentle currents reflect the careful attention maintained across the land. Night's protective rites are quiet, continuous, and potent. Every gesture, every careful movement, strengthens the invisible web that binds humans, gods, and nature. Darkness is not feared, it is observed, honored, and contained through devotion and discipline. The night deepens further, and vigilance continues, unbroken, until the first faint light of dawn signals the renewal of the cycle. In the silent hours just before dawn, the world seems suspended between night and day. Darkness still blankets Egypt, but a faint, imperceptible light begins to brush the horizon, hinting at the sun's return. This is the time when nightly rituals reach their symbolic completion, reinforcing protection, balance, and devotion before the first rays of sunlight awaken the land. In homes, lamps burn low, casting soft, controlled light that illuminates shrines and sacred symbols. Amulets are touched lightly, offerings double-checked, and thresholds observed carefully. Every action, though subtle, carries significance, a silent affirmation that the household remains aligned with unseen forces, ready to receive the new day. Even the slightest misplacement is corrected with deliberate care, for harmony must be maintained through the delicate transition. Children, still asleep, lie surrounded by protective measures established throughout the night. Mats, charms, and carefully arranged offerings ensure their safety and embed lessons of attentiveness and ritual into their earliest experiences. Their unconscious presence is part of the continuing rhythm, a silent participant in the household's alignment with divine order. Along the Nile, the river reflects the faint pre-dawn glow, appearing as a ribbon of muted silver and shadow. Boats remain securely moored, nets and oars adjusted in preparation for the day ahead. Fishermen perform final gestures of acknowledgement to river spirits, a hand lifted, a small touch of water, a silent thought. These acts, though quiet, maintain the bridge between human effort and divine presence. Artisans engage in minimal, contemplative acts. Potters run fingers along smooth vessels, ensuring completion, weavers check final alignments, scribes trace glyphs silently, reviewing their work one last time. These movements are both practical and sacred, merging craft with devotion and affirming the household's commitment to order. In temples, priests conduct the final nocturnal rites. Flames are trimmed to steady brightness, incense smoke adjusted with precision, and offerings aligned perfectly. Mental hymns continue, guiding divine presence through unseen realms and maintaining balance between night and the approaching day. Every gesture is intentional, conserving sacred energy and reinforcing the invisible framework that supports life. The natural world mirrors this ritualized completion. Birds stir subtly, preparing for dawn, oxen shift minimally in their grazing, the river murmurs quietly, reflecting the sky's emerging light. Even the desert seems attentive, holding itself in a poised stillness. The alignment of humans, animals, and nature forms a seamless continuity, bridging night and day. In these pre-dawn hours, the night's rituals reach their symbolic culmination. Protection is reinforced, devotion preserved, and the household stands ready to receive the sun. Every small action, gesture, and thought contributes to a larger, unseen tapestry of cosmic order. The night's work is complete, yet life remains poised for renewal. The first rays of the sun spill over the horizon, bathing Egypt in pale gold and soft rose. Shadows shrink and fade, revealing stone, river, and sand in clear detail. The night's rituals, carefully maintained through darkness, now give way to the morning observances of renewal. The land, the people, and the gods collectively breathe in the new day, as life resumes its visible rhythm. In homes, lamps are adjusted or replaced, ensuring light is steady and bright. Offerings of bread, water, and flowers are refreshed at household shrines. Amulets are touched, traced along walls or doorways, and repositioned where necessary. Every gesture is deliberate, affirming the continuity of protection, devotion, and cosmic alignment as the cycle begins anew. Children awaken slowly, surrounded by layers of care from the night. Mats are repositioned, charms lightly touched, and small offerings revisited. These familiar gestures are both instruction and ritual, embedding the principles of attentiveness, patience, and respect into daily life. Through repetition, the youngest members of the household internalize the balance between visible activity and unseen order. Along the Nile, fishermen prepare boats and nets with careful acknowledgement of river spirits. Hands hover briefly over the water, tracing small symbols of respect before casting nets. The river reflects the rising sun, shimmering with promise and sustaining the sacred rhythm between human labor and divine presence. Even routine motions, coiling nets, adjusting oars, become acts of devotion, reinforcing the household's and community's alignment with unseen forces. Artisans return to their workspaces with quiet focus. Potters trace rims of vessels, weavers ensure perfect symmetry in mats, and scribes review glyphs with meticulous attention. Each act of creation blends practicality and sacred observance. Mistakes are corrected thoughtfully, and the care invested in their work mirrors the attention devoted to maintaining harmony in life, home, and temple. In temples, morning rituals reinforce the transition from night to day. Flames are lit steadily, incense curls predictably, and offerings are aligned with precision. Priests move deliberately, maintaining silence where appropriate, guiding the god's presence into the visible world, and sustaining cosmic balance. Mental hymns and gestures ensure that the continuity of devotion persists, even as sunlight fills sacred spaces. The natural world participates quietly. Birds call softly, oxen graze in calm rhythm, and the river flows steadily, mirroring the sky's brightness. The desert and cultivated lands alike seem to pulse with life, reflecting the invisible order maintained by humans and gods alike. Every gesture, every motion, contributes to the balance of life. The full dawn is both an ending and a beginning, the night's vigilance is complete, and the day's labor begins anew. The world is renewed, sustained by countless small, deliberate actions that weave together protection, devotion, and harmony across homes, temples, and the natural world. As the sun climbs higher, the heat strengthens and the land awakens fully. The rhythm of life is steady and purposeful. This is the hour when daytime rituals continue, blending seamlessly with daily labor and occasional small festivals that honor gods, nature, and the continuity of life. These observances are quiet, subtle, and yet essential to maintaining cosmic harmony. In homes, offerings are refreshed again. Bread is placed carefully at shrines, water replenished, and flowers arranged with deliberate attention. Amulets are adjusted or traced over thresholds, and small symbols are lightly marked on walls or floors. Each gesture carries intention, reinforcing protection and devotion while integrating the household into the broader rhythm of the world. Children participate actively. They follow guided gestures learned through repetition, placing tiny tokens, touching amulets, and tracing sacred symbols. Their actions may seem minor, but they are woven into the continuity of devotion. Play becomes a vehicle for learning, teaching awareness, respect, and careful attention to invisible forces. Along the Nile, fishermen tend boats and nets with the same quiet reverence. Hands hover briefly above water in acknowledgement of river spirits. Nets are rolled with care, oars positioned deliberately, and small gestures of gratitude performed before labor resumes. Even the flowing river reflects these acts, participating in the invisible network of devotion and harmony. Artisans return to their work with renewed focus. Potters smooth vessels, weavers check the alignment of threads, and scribes review inscriptions carefully. Each act blends functionality with sacred observance. Minor corrections are made not just to perfect the work, but to preserve harmony and reinforce human participation in cosmic order. In temples, priests conduct midday rites quietly but precisely. Incense is monitored, offerings aligned, and flames adjusted to burn steadily. Silent or internalized hymns accompany gestures, maintaining the connection between human devotion and divine presence. Even in the hum of daily life, the sacred pulse continues, threading through work, ritual, and observation. Animals reflect the rhythm of the day. Birds move with quiet grace, oxen graze deliberately, and donkeys shift with care. The river shimmers in sunlight, reflecting the sky's clarity and reinforcing the balance of life. Even the desert seems to absorb and respond to the order established by human and divine attention. Small festivals punctuate the day in understated ways. A flower rearranged, a brief offering left near a shrine, a subtle movement along a temple path, these actions mark reverence, gratitude, and continuity. They are not loud or ostentatious, their power lies in intention, repetition, and attention to detail. As the day unfolds, each gesture, each motion, and each act of labor or devotion contributes to the invisible framework that sustains protection, harmony, and cosmic balance. Life continues, steady and interconnected, flowing between humans, gods, and the natural world. The sun tilts toward the western horizon, softening the brightness of midday into warm, amber light. Shadows lengthen, and the air carries a subtle calm, signaling that the active part of the day is winding down. This is the hour when the focus gradually shifts from labor to evening rituals, quiet festivals, and preparatory acts that bridge day and night. In homes, lamps are inspected and ready to illuminate shrines and sacred spaces as the sun departs. Offerings of bread, water, and flowers are refreshed or rearranged with meticulous care. Amulets are adjusted, and symbols lightly traced along walls or thresholds ensure continued protection. Every gesture is deliberate, each small act reinforcing the household's alignment with unseen forces. Children participate gently, performing guided movements learned through practice. They place tiny offerings near shrines, trace familiar protective symbols, and adjust amulets. Their attention, though subtle, contributes to the household's harmony, embedding lessons of care, respect, and the continuity of ritual practice. Along the Nile, fishermen pause from the day's work to honor river spirits. Nets are coiled, oars positioned carefully, and hands lifted briefly in acknowledgement of divine guardianship. The river's surface, now reflecting warm evening tones, mirrors these subtle acts of devotion, blending human activity with the natural world. Artisans conclude the day's labor thoughtfully. Potters smooth clay vessels, checking every curve, weavers adjust threads for symmetry, scribes review inscriptions with careful attention. Each action combines practicality with sacred intent, reinforcing order and harmony in both household and cosmos. In temples, evening preparations begin with precision. Flames are trimmed, incense is placed to curl predictably toward statues, and offerings aligned with care. Priests move deliberately, performing gestures with measured intention. Mental hymns accompany these movements, guiding the gods' presence through the coming night and sustaining cosmic balance. Silence dominates, allowing the sacred to permeate every space. Animals reflect the slow transition. Birds settle into trees and reeds, oxen graze quietly, and donkeys shift minimally. Even the desert seems attentive, holding stillness in harmony with the unfolding rituals. The river continues to shimmer, reflecting the sky and human devotion alike. The fading day is marked not by spectacle but by repetition, attention, and intention. Each gesture, tracing a symbol, refreshing an offering, adjusting an amulet, strengthens the web of protection and devotion that binds homes, temples, and the natural world. Life slows, preparing for the sacred passage into night. As the sun approaches the horizon, the stage is set. The evening rituals, festivals, and protective acts will soon unfold, bridging the day's labors with the coming darkness. The sun slips beneath the horizon, painting the sky with deep crimson, amber, and violet. Shadows stretch across the land, merging with the coming night. This is the hour when evening festivals reach their quiet climax, a time of collective observance, devotion, and subtle celebration throughout homes, temples, and along the Nile. In households, lamps are lit carefully, casting steady circles of warm light. Bread, water, and flowers are refreshed at shrines, arranged with deliberate precision. Amulets are touched, realigned, or traced along walls and doorframes. Every gesture is imbued with intention, a silent acknowledgement of protection, devotion, and cosmic balance as day gives way to night. Children participate attentively, placing tiny offerings or touching familiar symbols. Even their play is ritualized, small gestures echo the practices learned through repetition, embedding lessons of attentiveness, reverence, and respect. Through these actions, they contribute subtly to the household's ongoing harmony. Along the Nile, fishermen pause, their hands lifted briefly over the water in acknowledgement of river spirits. Nets are coiled carefully, oars positioned precisely. The river mirrors the sky's shifting colors, reflecting human devotion and divine presence. Every motion, even the smallest adjustment, reinforces the interconnected balance of life along its banks. Artisans observe the day's end with contemplative care. Potters smooth vessels, checking each curve, weavers adjust threads, scribes review glyphs silently. Labor and devotion merge seamlessly, turning every practical act into a gesture of sacred observance. Even minor corrections are made with the awareness that harmony depends on precision. In temples, priests conduct evening rites that are slow, deliberate, and powerful. Flames are trimmed, incense positioned to curl steadily toward statues of gods, and offerings aligned with meticulous attention. Mental hymns accompany gestures, reinforcing the presence of deities and guiding them safely through night. Silence dominates, punctuated only by purposeful movement, allowing sacred energy to flow uninterrupted. The natural world responds in subtle harmony. Birds settle into trees, oxen graze quietly, and donkeys shift minimally. The desert seems to exhale, holding space for the rituals below. The river glimmers with reflected twilight, participating silently in the shared observance. Evening festivals are understated yet potent. Their strength lies not in spectacle but in repetition, attention, and intention. Each act, tracing a symbol, adjusting an offering, touching an amulet, is part of an invisible tapestry of protection, devotion, and continuity. Darkness approaches, yet order is preserved, woven by the countless gestures of humans, animals, and the unseen world. The day concludes in quiet celebration. Life pauses briefly, readying for the long night ahead, secure in the knowledge that devotion, ritual, and attention maintain harmony across Egypt. With the last traces of sunset gone, Egypt is fully immersed in night. The sky is a deep, endless indigo, studded with stars that shimmer like distant guardians. The land, the river, the desert, and the temples all breathe in quiet rhythm, bound together by the rituals and devotions of the day. This is the final phase, when protective practices, subtle observances, and ceremonial gestures bring closure to the cycle, ensuring balance, harmony, and readiness for a new day. In homes, lamps cast steady, gentle light. Thresholds are checked, symbols traced one final time, and amulets adjusted or held close. Offerings of bread, water, and flowers are placed precisely, their positions reaffirming protective intent. Every gesture, though quiet, is charged with significance. Even the smallest motion, tilting a cup, smoothing a mat, adjusting a charm, serves as a reminder that humans are active participants in maintaining cosmic balance. Children sleep soundly, cushioned by layers of ritual care. Their mats, amulets, and nearby offerings ensure their safety and continuity of the protective web woven throughout the day. Even in unconsciousness, they are part of the household's devotion, their presence silently reinforcing the ongoing alignment between humans, gods, and nature. Along the Nile, boats lie securely moored. Nets